In 2002, a wave of corporate scandals shook global trust in institutions. While much of the attention focused on publicly traded companies, a quieter but equally important conversation emerged in the nonprofit world. Organizations built on trust, charities, foundations, and social institutions were not immune to governance failures. Cases of misused funds, weak oversight, and unclear accountability began to surface across continents. From mismanaged humanitarian aid to governance breakdowns in major foundations, the question became unavoidable: who governs organizations that exist for public good? Unlike corporations, nonprofits do not answer to shareholders. They answer to something more complex: mission, stakeholders, donors, and society itself. And when governance fails in this space, the consequences are not just financial. They are societal. Today, we explore the concept of nonprofit governance structures, what they are, how they evolved, and why they remain critical to the functioning of civil society worldwide. Nonprofit governance structures refer to the frameworks, roles, and systems through which nonprofit organizations are directed, controlled, and held accountable. At its core, nonprofit governance is about ensuring that an organization fulfills its mission ethically, effectively, and transparently. Core components: board of directors or trustees, executive leadership, e.g. CEO, executive director, committees, audit, governance, risk, fundraising, policies and bylaws, oversight and accountability mechanisms, theoretical foundations. Agency theory ensures leaders act in the best interest of stakeholders. Stakeholder theory expands accountability beyond donors to beneficiaries and society. Stewardship theory assumes leaders act as responsible caretakers of the mission. Key distinctions: governance versus management. Governance sets direction, management executes it. Oversight versus execution. Boards monitor, executives operate. Policy versus control. Policies guide behavior, controls ensure compliance. Nonprofit governance is uniquely complex because it operates without traditional ownership structures, making accountability both broader and more nuanced. The roots of nonprofit governance can be traced back centuries. Early foundations. Religious institutions, guilds, and early charitable organizations relied on informal governance structures, often led by community elders or clergy. Industrial Revolution. As societies industrialized, philanthropic efforts expanded. Foundations and charitable trusts emerged, requiring more formal oversight mechanisms. 20th century expansion. The rise of global NGOs and international aid organizations introduced larger funding flows, cross-border operations, increased complexity. Governance began to formalize with structured boards, defined roles, legal frameworks. Post-crisis reforms. Following scandals and inefficiencies, regulators introduced transparency requirements, reporting standards, governance codes. Modern era. Today's nonprofit governance reflects professionalization of boards, increased regulatory scrutiny, integration of risk and compliance frameworks. Nonprofit governance has evolved in response to trust and the loss of it. To understand nonprofit governance, we must examine its structural anatomy. 1. Board of Directors Trustees, the central governing body responsible for strategic direction, oversight of leadership, fiduciary responsibility, mission alignment. 2. Committees, specialized groups that enhance oversight, audit committee, financial integrity, governance committee, board effectiveness. Risk committee, risk identification and mitigation. Fundraising committee, resource development. 3. Executive leadership, responsible for day-to-day operations, strategy implementation, staff management. 4. Reporting lines. Clear separation ensures accountability, executive reports to board. Board evaluates executive performance. 5. Accountability systems include annual reports, donor disclosures, regulatory filings. 6. Internal controls, mechanisms to prevent misuse, financial controls, approval processes, audit trails. 7. Risk frameworks. Nonprofits increasingly adopt enterprise risk management, ERM, scenario planning, compliance monitoring. 8. Oversight cycles. Governance operates in cycles: planning, execution, monitoring, review, adjustment. This structure forms the operational backbone of trust. Nonprofit governance is not uniform. It reflects cultural, legal, and economic contexts. Anglo-American model, strong board independence, emphasis on fiduciary duties, Donor-driven accountability, European models, often influenced by public policy, greater integration with government frameworks, dual oversight structures in some cases, state-influenced governance. In some regions, nonprofits operate under significant government oversight. Governance structures may include state representatives, emerging markets, governance frameworks still evolving. Challenges include resource constraints, regulatory inconsistency, capacity building, supranational frameworks. Global organizations must align with international standards, cross-border compliance, multilateral expectations. Nonprofit governance reflects a balance between local context and global expectations. Governance evolves through failure. Common failures: weak board oversight, conflicts of interest, lack of financial transparency, over-centralized leadership. Ethical collapses, cases where funds were misallocated, missions were compromised, stakeholder trust was broken. Structural breakdowns, boards lacking independence, inactive or symbolic governance bodies. Poor documentation and controls. Reforms that followed: strengthened audit requirements, governance codes for nonprofits, board training and certification programs, enhanced donor transparency expectations. Key lesson: governance is not static. It is a discipline shaped by accountability failures. Today, nonprofit governance faces new complexities: digital transformation, data security, digital fundraising transparency, online stakeholder engagement, ESG pressure, environmental and social accountability, ethical governance expectations, stakeholder expansion, donors, beneficiaries, communities, regulators, data governance, handling sensitive information, privacy compliance, AI and automation, ethical use of AI in operations, decision-making transparency, cross-border complexity, multi-jurisdiction compliance, cultural governance differences. Modern governance requires adaptability in an increasingly interconnected world. Looking ahead, nonprofit governance is entering a transformative phase. Emerging trends: automation and oversight, real-time reporting systems, increased transparency demands, global governance standards alignment. Potential directions: governance platforms integrating data in real time, predictive risk monitoring, increased public visibility into nonprofit operations. Key question: will governance systems converge globally or fragment based on regional priorities? The future of nonprofit governance will depend on balancing efficiency, accountability, and trust. Governance is not simply structure, it is the architecture of accountability. Nonprofit governance structures exist to ensure that missions are protected, resources are used responsibly, stakeholders are respected, trust is maintained. We have explored what nonprofit governance is, how it evolved through history, why it remains critical today. And perhaps most importantly, governance is not only about preventing failure, it is about enabling purpose. As you engage with organizations, whether as a donor, professional, or observer, consider: who governs this institution? How are decisions made? Where does accountability truly sit? Because in the nonprofit world, governance is not just internal, it is public trust made visible.